Mr. Hayden is a master of sort of tenuous links, so I thought I'd try and copy him and have a go myself. So my question to you is, what do you have in common with a goat? Actually, not a goat that goes bah, as in a goat like Messi, Ronaldo, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Well, this holiday, as most holidays, I've had the chance to do some reading. I've been reading some historical fiction. I know the author goes away and researches the historical background when writing these books, but I've also gone listening to podcasts and finding out how much of it is actually true. And this is about arguably the greatest conqueror of all time. I'm not talking about Alexander the Great, who conquered most of Persia, as it was at the time, from Macedonia and Greece. Neither am I talking about Julius Caesar, who expanded the Roman Empire and which ended up conquering most of Europe. I'm actually talking about Genghis Khan, who conquered most of the Asian continent. Now, I started this saying, what have you got in common with a goat? Namely, possibly the greatest conqueror of all time, Genghis Khan. Well, before I go on, not this. Genghis Khan was a brutal man in a brutal age. He had a history of brutality, destruction, violence, massacre, slaughter, slavery and rape. So please, I'm not talking about that in any way, shape or form. But what can AKS living and Genghis Khan possibly have in common? We're around Square School. We try to give lots of opportunity to develop skills and develop attributes, personal attributes, communication skills, tenacity, teamwork skills, etc., etc. And actually, this is maybe what you have in common with Genghis Khan, because many of these skills and attributes he had in abundance. Let's take tenacity. Genghis Khan was born Temujin. He was the son of a chief of a tribe. However, his father was poisoned when Temujin was very young. Pretty much straight after that, Temujin, his mother and his siblings were kicked out of the tribe, left alone on the harsh Mongolian steppe to manage to survive, hunting for food themselves. They faced poverty, they faced starvation, they faced violence from other tribes. When he was 9, Genghis was kidnapped. He was put into slavery and endured harsh physical abuse. But he overcame this and he escaped. He went on to create a small tribe of his own, and then went on to unite the often feuding Mongol tribes that had been kept feuding for hundreds of years by Chinese interference. This required incredible tenacity, diplomatic efforts, strategic efforts, military campaigns over many, many years. But in 1206 he was proclaimed Genghis Khan, universal leader of the Mongols. If you're going to take over half of the known world, you need to be fairly courageous. Genghis Khan was known for this. He used to lead his troops from the front on the battlefields, putting himself at personal risk, and this demonstrated his commitment to their cause. He faced overwhelming odds in many of the battles, with armies 2, 3, 4 times the size of the Mongol army. However, his courage in the face of these challenges, as well as his tactical flexibility, allowed him to achieve remarkable victories. Every weekend, many of you play on hockey fields and rugby fields after hours and hours of practice. Well, Genghis Khan was just the same. He used to get his soldiers practicing all day, every day, so much so that they could fire arrows from their horses whilst all 4 hooves were off the floor to make sure they went exactly where they needed to. He understood the importance of teamwork, and this allowed him and his cavalry to move in swathes of thousands and overwhelm their enemies. Education should be about teaching people to solve problems, not just teaching people knowledge, because this is vital. And guess what? Genghis Khan was a great problem solver. When he entered China, he encountered cities with huge walls. He'd never seen bricks before. This was a problem. He managed to solve it in a number of ways, whether it be siege mentality or whether it be the adaptation of catapults to bring the walls down. He was incredibly inventive. On the battlefield, he was innovative. He used to feign retreats, encircling some of his enemies to gain the upper hand. His tactical flexibility allowed him to adapt and change to the circumstances during battle, which was something that most armies of the day couldn't do. Good communication skills have always been an important part of any civilization, and the Mongol Empire was nothing different. Genghis Khan set up relay stations, which established a network of stations known as yam stations throughout the empire. This allowed great communication. They had horse couriers, so highly skilled horseback riders who could ride 100 miles a day, maybe even more, without any issues to transport messages, codes and signals. Genghis Khan wasn't focused necessarily on just immediate conquests. He had long-term vision, initially to unite the tribes and then to expand the empire. He was also emotionally fairly intelligent, and he understood motivations, fears and desires of his followers, and this was one of the useful attributes he had in maintaining and expanding such a huge empire. One of the most surprising things I found about Genghis Khan when reading was his appreciation for diversity. You would have thought someone who was so brutal wouldn't really necessarily care about it, but actually Genghis Khan let religions within his empire run as they had before. He had a respect for the cultural diversity. He established rules for the treatment of women and children. Essentially, he learnt from other cultures and other religions. He understood that back in 1206. So who would have thought one of the most brutal men the world has ever seen actually had many of the attributes we strive for now? We might choose to use these attributes for different reasons, but it does go to show how important some of our round square ideals are.